And the tabernacle was all wrapped up also, and it went with Israel. God said, I never asked anybody to build me a house. Why? Because if you build God a house, you're going to anchor him in one spot. And that's what the church has done. They built the house for God. So if you want to worship God, what do? You go to the church building. Because the church, we are the church, not the building.
Amen.
But now the building is called the church. So the whole thing has been messed up. And our concept now is that that's the house of God. So on Sunday, you know, you're supposed to be there and worship God in the church. That's the house of God. Well, I'm going to tell you, my Bible tells me that the house of God is on the top of the mountain of the Lord.
Amen.
The mountain of the Lord. And that the day, today, he said, there will be that cry going out, come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord and to the house of our God. Because that's where he's going to meet with us. But of course, we're now understanding since the death, the burial, and the resurrection, that Christ now dwells in a people. So God, back in creation, when he said, let us make man, he was not just forming a creature to live on this earth, to fill the place up, to do whatever was needed on the earth. He had built his own dwelling place. So when Jesus Christ was on the earth, what did he say? He said, in my Father's house are many abiding places. Many abiding places. You are the abiding places. You are the house of God today. God dwells in a people. I will never forget, back in about 1968, when I was in India for the first time, walking down the street with my host, and we were on our way to the meeting. And as we were walking along the road, one of his neighbors was walking in the opposite direction. And when he got close up to us, he said good morning to the host that was looking after me. He said, you're going to church? Oh, no, said the man. He said, this is the church going to worship God. And they had no name. The church had no name. They didn't even have a building. They would just meet either in a house or under a tree or in a shed or wherever they could. They had no name, no organization. This was the true church. The same has happened in China under Watchman Nee. So that when the communists came and took over that country, put all the pastors in prison, took over the church buildings, the church was finished. And word went across Australia, pray, come on, pray for the Christians in China. The church is being destroyed. I want to tell you, nobody on this earth is going to destroy the church,
Amen.
which is his body.
Amen.
Nobody. Because we're going to rule and reign in righteousness on this earth. So, it is important for us to know that what happened at Calvary was to become our experience. This is the 3 days. This is the 3 days. on the third day, there is a resurrection. On our third day, there is a resurrection. I hope that has taken place in your life, because without the resurrection, what are we? We're nothing. We're dead. You may have died in Jesus Christ. You may have been buried in him, but if there's no resurrection in your life, you're still in the tomb. Lazarus, they said he's sick. Come down here and heal him. And so he abode 2 more days. And he stayed where he was. In verse 9, Jesus answered and said, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, then he can do the work, because he's got the light of the sun. But when the day is over and the night comes, it's hard then, because you can't see properly. You can't see what you're doing. So he says in verse 11, our friend Lazarus is asleep. Lazarus is asleep. The disciples said, well, Lord, that's okay, because if he's asleep, then he'll wake up. I mean, you can't sleep forever. You know, you might sleep in the morning for a while, but you're going to get up eventually. Hey, unless you're Rip Van Winkle or something like that. He's asleep. And the disciples said, well, he'll wake up, Lord, so there's nothing to worry about. And Jesus knew that their mind wasn't working too good. So it says here in verse 14, Jesus said to them plainly, Lazarus is dead. He's dead. John chapter 5. John chapter 5. And verse 25. The hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of God, and those that hear will have a resurrection. Because if you're dead, there's nothing else you want except a resurrection, isn't that right? It's no good then, you know, bringing out the loaves and fishes. You're dead. All you need is the resurrection. So he says, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of God. Yes. And when you hear that voice, you will live. Because it's the voice of resurrection. Saul of Tarsus was a man employed by the government of Israel to kill the Christians. Well, he's working for the Romans, actually. To kill all of the Christians. And so he's riding or driving, whatever. I don't know what kind of vehicle he had. Maybe horse and cart, whatever. He's going down the road to Damascus, and all of a sudden, a light from heaven shone upon him, and he's face down on the road. And when he raised his head and looked up, he saw something that changed his entire being. A transformation took place immediately, because he saw somebody who had been dead but had been raised up into a new life. Jesus Christ.